underground storage tanks. Has anybody ever had to deal with these before? Okay. Okay. You had to have it removed?
Yes.
Yep. Ballpark, how much does something like that run you? It's interesting. $2,700. Good price.
With a clean ground certificate.
Clean ground. Awesome. The cheapest one I've had to do 3 or 4 now, and the cheapest I've seen.
Fuel.
Gotcha.
Heat.
Okay.
Not on a commercial application.
Not on commercial. The cheapest residential one I've ever seen is about $7,000 to $8,000.
We had one down the street, it's 18,000.
18,000.
You get dirt out.
Contaminated
Put it in
ground.
test wells.
Oh, you got a test well, so it went under the house. Yeah, the oil bath. Who knew you had to remove the dirty dirt and bring in clean dirt, all right? So that's what happens with underground storage tanks. So tap dance, underground storage tanks. After mastering this dance, you should be able to understand how underground storage tanks should be disclosed, understand DENR role with such tanks. What's that stand for? DENR.
Environmental Natural Resources.
Good. Department of Environmental Natural Resources. We're going to talk about this because this almost has its own language that goes with everything. And know how to handle real life situations. So I will tell you, I've actually had an issue. I talked with a client to say, can I kind of tell your story? A while back, I went to a property of a lady that needed to really sell her house. She'd been in the house 1 year. She moved into a house, moved in 1 year. Not long after moving in, ended up going through a divorce. So she's there by herself now and really needed to sell her house. So I go out and meet with her. We walk through the property and we're kind of talking. We're walking around the house, and right beside the air conditioning unit, I see them, the 2 pipes. You know what I'm talking about? 2 pipes that stick up. Yep, the fill up in the vent pipes. So I said, tell me about your oil tank you have here. She said, well, I don't have an oil tank. I said, yeah, you do. You've got it right there. And she said, I've never noticed that was there before. I bought this house a year ago. It was never mentioned to me. They've never, I have a natural gas house. It's not connected. She said, what's that mean? And I had to explain to her, hey, a buyer could come in here and do a soil sample on your property. And if it comes back bad, that there's been an oil leak, you'll have to record it on your deed so everybody knows going forward that your property is contaminated. Is that kind of a big deal that she should have known about a year ago? Yeah, and this happens all the time. So know how to handle real life situations. A property manager must disclose known underground storage tanks issue, USTs, underground storage tank, to potential tenants, as a leaky UST can contaminate soil and groundwater and affect the use and enjoyment of the property. Okay? You need to tell them if there's an underground oil tank out there. UST. So here's some of the terms. Underground storage tank. There it is. If you never removed one, that's what they look like when you take it out. NCDENR. What was that again?
North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources.
Very good. Very good. That's good. This is the organization, the group at the state level that monitors all this and keeps up with all of it. Yeah.
Where would you disclose that to the new tenant about an underground storage tank?
Always good idea to have everything in writing. Email's great. If you know what's on the property, it might be good just to put it on the lease. Please note, underground oil tank. Any other recommendations, Pam, on disclosure?
Just something written.
Something in there.
Do you have to get it checked to say it's empty, there's this much in it, or whatever?
No, because this is where it gets a little tricky, because if you do a soil sample, if you do a soil sample and it comes in high, now you've got to record it or you fix it, one or the other. So you don't have to go in, you just need to disclose, hey, there's an oil tank there. Because what happens if you're out in the country and the oil tank leaks and it's not that far away from the well?
But wouldn't you want to pump it out if it's got something in there?
That's going to be the property owner. That's going to be the owner's call. If they want to do it, at least pump it out. If it's still using, if it's still working, it's still working. I heard of a case here recently to where the owners have lived in the house 15 years and never knew there was an oil tank. Under the due diligence, they found out, and it had 700 gallons of oil still in it.
Is that like an agent thing that you can sue them for not telling them?
Yeah, there's actually, I was going to get a report.
Especially if you see it out of sight of the ground, you know.
The commission has said agents need to do their research and look for red flags.
Half this class knows that is another current lawsuit under this same conversation. $15,000.
But there are no current regulations for removal of that tank.
There's no current reimbursement.
There's no reimbursement. So the issues you can run in, especially on the sale side of things. Let's say you list your property for sale. I'm the buyer's agent. We come in, oh, look at these 2 pipes. Let me tell you what these are. And I'm going to sit with my client and tell them the risk with this, and I'm going to recommend them do a soil sample. They do a soil sample, it comes back high. What does the property owner have to go through now? You can remove it, which, you know, but by the EPA, you have to file paperwork with them to let them know what's going on. If not, you have to record an add-on to your deed, which I want to show you in a minute, that basically says the property is contaminated. And that's a public record that you'll find. We actually came across one recently on a property we were selling. We did the deed work on it, and it came back contaminated. Could a buyer still buy it with a contaminated deed? That's their call. But the problems you run into is 1 year later, if something happens and they have to go sell and they've never heard this before, now they're looking at some issues there. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Any other questions? So is this a big deal right now? Absolutely.
Sometimes you see the pipe sticking up from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's not outside, it's in the basement.
It's under the house. I feel a lot better when I walk in and I see it in the basement than not seeing it in the ground, because at least I know if it's leaked, it's going to be right there on the ground.
How you gonna get that tank out of the basement?
Cut it up.
Get you a welder and torch it out. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do it because I just break stuff. I wouldn't do it. But question?
And an above-ground tank can also cause you problems. I had a tenant in a house that I owned that had like a 14-foot dirt basement,
Mm-hmm.
plenty of height, that had an old above-ground oil tank, and it had leaked at some point. And I was putting kitty litter on it and cleaning it up and told him we'd get some dirt out. And so he called the DENR to tell him there was an oil spill.
So that's how you knew the name of it.
Yes. So you can't call those people and say, never mind, it was an error. So $4,000 later, I had a hole dug.
Mm-hmm.
And was
Yeah.
ready. I knew what to put in it, but the tenant wouldn't hold still. So
Yeah. Above ground oil tank. So it could be a big deal. Anybody know what MSCC stands for? Maximum soil containment concentrations. That's a tough one to remember there. So this is the maximum limit that they will allow to be considered the property, the soil is still considered safe. But you still, a lot of times, will have to record that on the deed. NRP, anybody know this one? Okay, notice of residual petroleum. This is what you get to record if it turns out that the soil is contaminated around your property, and you also have to send letters to your surrounding neighbors to let them know you could have a hazmat issue at the property. That might not be a good letter for them to receive from you. But this is actually a sample I pulled off the line. Basically tells you that, hey, notice of residual petroleum. This will be attached to the deed, and it'll be referenced and everything too, public records. Okay? You ever seen one of those before? Hopefully you won't, but there's more and more of them getting posted out there. So how do you disclose it? Kind of to Rusty's questions. Might be a good idea to write it in the lease, especially if you know the soil's contaminated. Say, listen, there was an oil tank that was over there that leaked. The concentrations came back and said, hey, it's at a safe level, but we have to disclose to you. Don't go digging in the back right corner of the yard. Okay? That's where the location's at or something. So you always want to disclose this. Another thing you always want to do is you want to ask where the UST, what was UST?
underground storage tank.
Good job. Good job. You want to know where it is located. You do not want the tenant to park over the tank or hit the pipes. I had that happen once at a property. The underground oil tank was right off the driveway, and the tenant came in one night and didn't notice it and hit him and broke him. So now they have to dig up the tank and redo the tank because they ran over the pipes. So if you see one, that might be a recommendation to an owner. Your tank is right here, very close. Why don't we set a post or something here? Kind of like they do water heaters now in garages. Let's put a post here or something, which would be a whole lot cheaper than if he or she runs over the tank refill and you're having to repair your whole tank. Okay? Just some things to look for. Definitely don't want them parking, because it would be bad if your tenant woke up one morning and that's what their car looked like in the driveway, because the tank collapsed and they were parked on top of it, kind of like a septic tank. Hey, any questions on any of those? Sounds like y'all have had the pleasure of dealing with some oil tanks. So definitely something to think about, and it's definitely something, have that red flags that you're looking for when you go out to look at a property.